Hey, what's up guys, it's Ella. I'm back again. Hey guys, I'm gonna be doing a video where I sit here and read pretty much the whole time. Hopefully you guys think this will be interesting. Make sure to give this video a like if you liked it. You liking it lets me know that I should make more of this kind of video. Make sure to comment down below whether you like this video, whether you want to see more like this one. Comment down below if you like candles or not. So what I'm going to be reading is A Glitch in the Matrix. It's pretty much when these random people write down just crazy life experiences that's like a glitch in the Matrix. It's just beyond any type of normal day. Okay, let's get on with the video. Let's get on with the video. I'm going to be shutting this light off and I'm going to be lighting up this red candle. It's going to have a cool effect for today's video. Guys, it is 4:11 right now. I have my lighters right here. Alrighty. Are you serious? Oh my god. This probably makes me look so cool, broski. Okay. Let's start with this one. 10 years ago, I was returning home from a road trip with two friends. I received a phone call from my parents asking when we would be arriving, and I explained that we were about 25 minutes away, but a minute later we came around a bend. It was a full moon and we could see the reflection from a lake below us, and other than the road, it was completely empty. Suddenly everything went completely dark in the car. No lights, dash regarders or headlights on the road. The music also stopped and restarted at the beginning of the CD we were listening to. There was now a vehicle pulled over by the police about 1/4 mile in front of us. I assumed I had dozed off for just a second as it was late. I thought it was still quite peculiar though. After about a minute, the driver of the car turned the music all the way down and said, "Did that just happen to anyone else?" The other passenger in the back seat sat forward abruptly and exclaimed, "I thought I just fell asleep." We then realized that the clock in the car was reading an hour later than it just had a minute before. To keep ourselves from freaking out, we decided that the car had possibly had a momentarily electrical failure and reset the clock to an odd time. Turning off the dash lights, headlights, and gauges and restarted the CD player, but when we arrived home 25 minutes later, we were 1 hour late. I am missing an hour of my life, and to this day, I have no idea how it happened. That is the first story. This is the second story. This one is called A Vanishing Road. About 4 years ago, I lived in this fairly small fly's peck of a town. At the time, I had lived there for about 12 years, so I knew my way around. Our house was about 1.5 miles from the nearest neighborhood. Our mom intentionally picked that house due to the lack of neighbors. It was tucked away on a back road with the woods surrounding it. Every now and again, I liked to take walks with my little brother, who at the time was 13. We decided to do just that. We headed up the road and decided to try to find a new path or a new clearing that we hadn't discovered yet, when we noticed something a little shocking. Just off the road that led almost directly to the neighborhood, there was a brand new paved road. Every road in that part of town was a gravel road, so seeing an out-of-place paved road was pretty unusual. We stared at it for a while. Ooh, that's a bad sign. I just got dizzy. Oh yeah, I'm still dizzy. We stared at it for a while and came to the conclusion that it must have been made within the last few days. I can't read, I'm so dizzy. I'm still dizzy. Is it this candle? No. Why am I so dizzy? And came to the conclusion that it must have been made within the last few days due to the modern but slow growth of the town. However, we had no explanation for how they did it so fast. We decided to explore it a bit. I remember as soon as we set foot on the road, the air became noticeably colder by at least 5 degrees. The road itself was a black pavement, but no dividing lines. It was surrounded by some thick red trees that resembled redwoods, but they were too short and non-native to our state. We walked on the road for about 3 miles until we decided to head back due to it getting dark. When we got off the road, we felt the temperature go back up. My brother and I agreed to explore it the next day. At roughly noon, The following day, we set back out to explore this place, only to discover that the entire road was missing. When I say missing, I mean the trees were cleared to make it had apparent grown back, with no sign of the redwood-like trees. We even began to explore the woods once more, but only to find no sign that it ever existed. When we asked our parents about it, they said they knew nothing about any new road work being done near us. Okay guys, so I'm pretty cold. I'm just gonna throw on this little, whatchamacallit, sweater. If it's getting darker, if it seems darker to you, it's because it's just getting darker outside. Also guys, it's your choice whether to believe it or not, because, you know, these are just stories people write down. They could simply make it up. If you're a skeptic, then go ahead and be one. I'm not telling you these are true or anything. These just are so cool to read, and I love reading these. I got real freaked out because when I screenshotted these, my phone was at 1%, and I thought every time I would go onto the picture, my percent would actually change. But no, it's at 91. I'm an idiot. It's freaking me out. Okay. September 2015. I was a freshman who had just entered high school 2 weeks prior. Already school was weighing down on me, and I'd been continuing a habit I had of going on walks to clear my mind. On this day, I'd been walking around a pond near my house. There's a trail that goes around the pond, and then the trail leads up to a set of abandoned train tracks on the other side, which sit about 15 feet above the path and pond below. After walking the circle, I was crossing the train tracks when I decided I wanted some ice cream. The fastest way to get to the ice cream shop was to take the path below the train tracks, but there isn't any way to cross the pond without going all the way back around. And being 14 years old, I decided I could just jump from the tracks into the path below and keep walking. Looking down from above, it didn't seem to be that far of a jump, so that's what I did. The next thing I remember after that was being half conscious in an ambulance. Everything was extremely blurry, and the paramedics sounded slightly panicked. I wasn't able to move either of my legs, so I think they were both broken. This scene continued on for a few minutes until we arrived at the hospital, and I was wheeled into an emergency room on a stretcher. I only had a few minutes in emerge before I eventually lost all consciousness, and that was the last thing I saw. After I'd been unconscious for what felt like about an hour, I opened my eyes and I was on the ground. I just hit the ground after jumping, but this time I was fully conscious. I hadn't noticed this before I jumped, but there had been a car parked watching me. I think they thought I was attempting suicide, but it probably looked that way. And the people in it had jumped out and called an ambulance for me. The ambulance ride had been the exact same as it was the first time, and I was put into the same emergency room that I had died in before. The only difference between the two events were that I was fully conscious this time, and my injuries were much more minor. I was discharged from the hospital the same night with only stitches in my lip, a slightly fractured jaw, and a mild concussion. For a while after this, I assumed that the first scenario had just been a wildly coincidental dream while I was unconscious. So I didn't consider it anything abnormal. It wasn't until a few weeks after when my mom told me that the people who had helped me said that I had been conscious the entire time. I hadn't been knocked out after hitting the ground or anything. So that entire scenario managed to happen in the few seconds it took me to hit the ground while I was still conscious. So that was the third one. Wow, that makes it so much brighter. Magnificent. Magnificent even. Okay, this is the fourth story. So I guess a little context is in order. My girlfriend and I had been together about a year at the time. Never had big problems. We were both pretty relaxed people. Never had a big fight. Never had trust issues. The whole shenanigan. So one day I was out in front of my apartment building smoking a cigarette. This was before we lived together. I had seen her the night before, had a nice dinner, gone out to the bar, then gone to my place, after which she took a taxi home. So as I'm standing out in front of my apartment building, she pulls up in a taxi. I wasn't expecting her and was pleasantly surprised to see her. I put out my cigarette, smiled, and walked up saying something like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" in a very friendly way. She scours at me and slaps me square across the jaw. Obviously, I'm dumbfounded and at a loss of words, so I just kind of looked at her. She never said anything, just barged past me into the building. I followed her up to my apartment, asking her what was happening the whole way. She goes into my apartment, grabs her bag and some of her stuff she left there, throws a few things at me, breaking a glass or two and knocking down a bunch of stuff on a shelf. She calls me a pig, says she knows everything and that I've broken her heart. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, obviously, and she stops on her way out when I touch her sleeve, glares at me, and slaps me. She tells me something like, "I hope I never see you again," and walks out. I followed her to the street and she got in the cab and drove off. The street was pretty empty. This was maybe 8, 9 a.m. and I watched her drive off. At this point, I'm just lost for words, scared and sad. Then, as I'm watching the cab drive away, someone hugs me around my waist from behind. I turn around and it's her, in running clothes. She was wearing heels and a leather jacket before, and I went completely pale. She said hi in her usual happy-go-lucky tone, then noticed my look and said, "What's wrong?" I spun around, no taxi. It had literally driven away 5 seconds earlier. No way it could have turned in that time, and all the lights were red. I didn't say anything to her, just ran upstairs. Her bag was gone, things were still broken, my door still wide open, so then I told her. We were both monumentally confused. There's no way I could have mixed her up with someone else, and she's an only child. We had security check the cameras, and sure enough, me following a girl to my apartment. The angles weren't great, and the film wasn't great quality, but it was pretty easy to see me and my face. But hers was always hard to make out. Looked a lot like her, but never a clear shot. No way it was the same girl. Still creeps me the F out, and we don't talk about it. That is so weird. I mean, first of all, this girl looks exactly the same as the other one, even if it's a doppelganger or some kind of crap. How would she, know him and that her stuff was in the apartment? Okay. This is the 5th one, I believe. This is my favorite one. This is the one I'm saving for last. I read this story before. I read all of these before just to make sure that they're the best ones to read to you guys. This is a long one too, actually. So let's go. I know a fair amount of these stories are feasible to explain and are basic coincidences at most, but hear me out, this may be long, but I was thoroughly disturbed last night at work. Let me just say that I am known to be a pretty observant guy. All my friends and family who know me, even slightly well, are aware that I notice everything. It is pretty hard to slip something past me. Not to say I'm proud or a cocky a-hole or anything, but it's just a little background into me before you read this long story. Thank you. I've worked at this sandwich joint for over a year and a half. We run a night shift crew. I am a good employee, in good standing with the owner and manager, and I'm a little bit of a night crew manager myself. The restaurant itself is very slow, as we tend to receive maybe 20 to 30 customers within. Alright. My card got full, so I had to upload all of my stuff to the computer and then charge the battery, so if the angle or anything looks different, that's why. The restaurant itself is very slow, as we tend to receive maybe 20 to 30 customers within my entire 6 to 7 hour closing shift. This means that I naturally tend to start conversations with customers. I like to figure out where people work, their day jobs, where they went to college, how their lives are, and all that stuff. About a week or so ago, this man came in. I would say early 30s, dark hair, dark features, sweatpants, a Nike sweatshirt, and hood up. It was late at night, say 9:30ish, and I was all ready to close this bad boy up and get home, but had another half hour to kill. So I said, screw it, let's start a conversation with this guy. Maybe his dad is like a congressman or something cool. Maybe I'll learn something from him. Holy hell, this guy was creepy as shiz. He wouldn't meet my direct eye line. He would talk to me by looking above or between my eyes. He kept his left hand tucked in the back of his waistline. It was like he was clutching a gun. He kept his hand there the entire time. He was looking nervous and reluctant. Most people who commit robberies do. And as the sandwich making progressed, I was becoming more and more sure that I was about to be robbed. He asked for a ham sandwich on white bread, but due to his pretty demeanor, I was admittedly feeling nervous. The 8 slices of ham ended up being folded over a different radius, laid on top of each other sloppily, and did not look like too appetizing of a sandwich. The man asked for Swiss cheese. The formula calls for 4 slices, so as I always do, I picked up a stack of the triangular cut cheese and fanned it all out in such a way where I could grab 4 and throw the rest back into the pile. I laid the cheese in a less than orderly fashion, and the sandwich is still clearly missing its picture perfectness that you see on TV. These details may seem irrelevant, but I just want you to know the gist of it. You'll see why. The man asked if I could toast his sandwich. This means that I would have to turn my back to him for a few seconds to throw it in the toaster. I was running a lot of shiz through my mind, and I was not prepared to turn my back to him. This caused a mini sort of panic, and I grabbed his sandwich and attempted to stand in such a way where I could keep my eye on him with my waist twisted enough to get the sandwich in the toaster, but still be looking at him. As you may have guessed, I dropped it. I dropped the sandwich. I made a basic attempt to catch it as it fell, kinda like flared my knee up and tried to use my waist as a sort of cushion to hold up my elbow to catch the sandwich. But to no avail, I guess. Just imagine fumbling with your phone and the weird motions your body makes in an attempt to catch it right as you realize you dropped it. You get the idea. I was panicking hardcore. Splat. It flew. In the few seconds before I looked up, I was bracing myself for a very angry creep staring at me, but he was gone. He had left. He vanished. I didn't even hear the squeak of the door, the footsteps, nothing. I ran outside. I looked left, looked right, looked left again, and no cars were driving away. No cars were even remotely parked close enough for him to be hiding in or behind. He was just gone. The sandwich was still on the ground, fallen face down. One of the triangles of cheese landed in just perfect angular contrast with the tiles of the floor. Of the 8 pieces of ham on the sandwich, 6 were left betwixt the bread and the floor, while 2 pieces flew off and landed adjacent to the cabinet on top of which the toaster is located. Fast forward to last night. A man much older than the first comes in. I would say 60s, white hair, dark figure, probably about 6'6", was probably the tall, dark, and handsome type of dude in the 70s or something. Pretty nice man. Up until he started ordering his sandwich. I just got chills typing that last sentence because I have no idea how to proceed with this story. It just gets unsettling for me. He ended up asking for white bread. I started to carry my casual conversation. "How's your night going, sir? Just getting off work?" The man answered with a stern affirmative and offered no other information. Okay, clearly this guy didn't want to talk about anything other than his sandwich. Weird. "What kind of sandwich for you, sir?" "Ham." "Alright. Pretty stern guy. No nonsense. Maybe he's like in the mafia or some shiz and he got nervous when I asked about work. Alright, fine. Let me make your sandwich and you can get out of here, man." He then reached behind his waist in the exact same effing way the first guy did. I swear to God, the gesture and motion were the exact same smoothness, timing, and form. He kept his left hand there the exact same way the other guy did about a week ago. The same way. Everything started eerily coming back to me now. It was like the most jolting deja vu moment I have ever had, and I honestly thought it was just that, deja vu. But then there's more. The way I ended up laying the ham looked very, very familiar. The distance between each slice, the way each layer peeled off the stack in ratio to the next, the way the slices folded over. I can honestly swear to you that I was building the same effing sandwich that I built just a week ago. I was having one of those moments where a bunch of shiz just passes through your mind all at once, and it's actually kind of surprising just how many thoughts you could have in such a short amount of time. But I remember telling myself to take the risk and just reach for the Swiss because I just had the feeling. "How did you know I wanted Swiss?" I was taken aback. He actually wanted Swiss? How in the world do I pass it off as a lucky guess? Well, exactly how you would think. "Lucky guess," I uttered as I let out a meager, pathetic little chuckle. The man proceeded to say the most spine-chilling thing I had ever heard. The man looks at me as if I told him I knew the winning lottery number for the next win. Very inquisitive look. Very, very strong sense of passion in his words when he said this. "No, seems like you've done this before." He just called out my deja vu. He just confirmed that he was aware of my deja vu. At this point, the phrase time traveler just made its first entrance into my mind. I looked at him with the most ridiculous, awestruck impression. I sat there staring at him for a good 5 seconds before I laid the cheese. It was a surreal moment. It was like the climax of this confrontation had already happened. but I still needed to lay out the cheese and veggies, roll the sandwich up, and then ring him in at the register. How much creepier is this gonna get? I just didn't get it. I picked up the cheese in the exact same way I always do, fan out the top 4 slices, and lay them down. I was looking down at the same sandwich I built a week prior. I swear to you, the cheese, the bread, the ham, everything was just uncannily similar. I credit myself to be a rational dude, so at this point, I was just calling it deja vu and trying not to feel disturbed. The man said, just lettuce and mayo, no toast. Phew, not toasted. Thank the good Lord. He didn't want it toasted. This deja vu is over and it's all just a coincidence, right? Well, some of you all may not know, but there is a thing called a hot food tax in some places. Therefore, when a sandwich is toasted, there is a button for hot food taxation. It's something like 12 cents. So as a force of habit, I read the order back to the customer in this fashion. Alright, sir. So a ham sandwich not toasted with a bag of chips and 2 cookies. He looked very concerned with why I mentioned it was not toasted. Why did you have to specify that it's not toasted? Then I explained to him all about the hot food tax and blah blah. Force a habit, because if a sandwich is toasted, you repeat the order like, alright, a ham sandwich toasted with chips and a drink or something like that. After explaining that to him, he was just like kind of inquisitive about it. Nothing too weird. I didn't want to keep him any longer, so I took his card, swiped it, and I could not wait for him to get the F out. As he walked out the door, he looked back at me with the creepiest smile you can conceive in your ready imagination. He turned around and says what I honestly do not think I will ever forget. Just to let you know, I didn't not toast the sandwich because of the tax. I'm not that much of a cheap bastard. Okay, the guy's trying to lighten the mood, right? Sweet, yeah, I know he's not a cheap bastard. It's 12 cents, but he felt the need to tell me the real reason he didn't get it toasted. I just didn't want you to drop it. And just like that, he was gone. Holy shiz. I have chills everywhere. This was without doubt the most spine-chilling thing I have ever experienced. I have no idea what I experienced, but if you actually took the time to read all this, please tell me if this is a legit glitch in the Matrix. I love that. That was so long. Okay, guys. This was really fun to film. I definitely want to do this more often, so make sure to comment and let me know if you guys liked it as much as I did, because I could totally do this so much more often if you want me to. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. See ya. Love you.